Hi everybody, thanks for joining the video that accompanies this month's GFAQ. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the steps of loading some TIFF data and taking a look and seeing if it's being auto-stretched, turning that auto-stretch on and off, as well as a couple tips on color balancing. So let's jump into this GFAQ right away here. So the first step is I'm going to load some raw 16-bit data into the system, some Worldview 2 data that I have from another order. And here you can see it's loaded. So 16-bit imagery, if you read the article, should show up as a black tile. So obviously this data has been stretched. So let me give you a sense of what that means and how you can tell what that looks like. So let's zoom in on the data set here, zoom into an area that has some features, and then let's zoom down to the raster resolution. And so you get our user's data looks like. Now let's right click on this data set, the name of it, go to the properties, and then you're going to want to go to the Symbology tab, which is over here. And you're going to see here, this is where the information about how the data has been color balanced or stretched is. And you can see that ArcGIS 10 applies an automatic stretch to your data, which is actually a pretty great thing if you're using 16-bit data. It can also be a bad thing, and we're going to show you that here in a little bit. So let me show you what it looks like when it loads with no color balance, just so you get a sense. And there you go. You get a black tile. Let me just zoom out to the layer here, just show you that it is indeed a black tile. So let's go back to my zoom level, and let's show you a couple of things you can do with color balancing so you can get started working with color balancing on your own in ArcGIS, which can be not the easiest thing to do. What I tend to find that works pretty well are either standard deviations or a percent clip. So let me show you standard deviations. And you basically, when you use this, you're going to want to change this n value, and that's how many standard deviations are going to be clipped at the edges. So the default is 2.5, and if you press apply, you can see that it's pretty washed out. So let me just show you what you can do with different n values. Let's go to an n value of 1. You can see it's even more washed out. But let's say we go up to a 4.5, and we should see the exact opposite effect, getting a little bit darker. So those are a couple things you can do with the standard deviations. You can also apply this gamma stretch. It's a little ArcGIS thing that they've added. You can see it lightens it up a little bit, so you can always experiment with that, turning it on and off. Now let me show you the percent clip. The percent clip is pretty straightforward. You can clip the max and the min values. I'll usually set them the same value. You can definitely try using different values on the top and the bottom. That's up to you and your data set. So let's try a 1% clip. You can see that it's looking okay. Now let's try 5% clip on each edges. You can see that it starts getting way oversaturated. And if we go down to back down to 1% here, it's looking pretty nice. And there is one more color balance in here that's relatively nice that I've noticed. It's the ESRI stretch. And there you go. It doesn't really have as many intuitive parameters. You can go in here and you can see what it's doing. I don't suggest changing this stuff unless you know exactly what's going on with it. Okay, so that was showing you what 16-bit imagery looks like and an auto stretch when you bring it in, which, as I said, is a really great thing when you're using 16-bit imagery. Now, let me show you what happens when you bring in an 8-bit color balanced image and why this could actually be a bad thing now. So here we are, zoomed in the maximum, so let me just zoom back out to the level, and you can see that it comes in color balance, and it's looking okay. You might not even realize that this auto balance is on, unless you're a pretty experienced user and you've experienced this yourself before. So we're zooming on an area. Let's zoom to the raster resolution. Keep your eyes on this building right here as a test case. So let me go into the properties again, right-clicking it, into the properties. You can see here again, it brings up a percent clip automatically. So let's turn that off, and let's turn off the gamma stretch. And now what you're going to see is the color balance that we applied to the data. And you'll notice right away, the greens look much better. Reality starts setting in on this rooftop where you can actually see these little small features that were much less apparent before. Let me just zoom out to a global level and give you a sense of how much nicer that just seems to look than where it started. Now, let's do a quick little test here with this data set. Let's zoom back in on the color balanced image that we've created. And we actually created this in a program called Envy. and Envy does a really good job at color balancing. ArcGIS is definitely a little harder to work with. ArcGIS excels at vectors, not the best raster program, but it'll still work. Now, what I want to show you here is just want to show you the difference between what you can do with a human-done color balance that's pretty ideal versus what it's going to look like with the automated stretch. So let me turn off my color balance layer. Let's turn back on this image. This is the 16-bit image, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to set this as I know what it starts at. I'm going to set these values so that it looks like what it would when you loaded it with the automatic stretch that it starts with. So there you go. You can see that this roof has much less visibility of these smaller features. Let me do that one time again just so you can see it. And let me also show you another thing here. Let's go to the full extent and take a look at how much nicer, just even from a full extent, this image looks versus that. The greens look truer, color balance is just nicer looking, more true. So what you're seeing now is the 8-bit Drayon that we created, and this is the automated 16-bit image that was done with ArcGIS without any interference by us. So let me do one more little thing here while we have your attention. Let's zoom back to the raster resolution and let's focus on this building. Let's put it in the center of the screen, and let's use the slider bar, which is a part of the drawing toolbar kit. It's right up here. It's called Swipe. And what you can do is you can peel back the imagery. If it's going to work for me, of course not. I just got to change this up here. My apologies. So the top layer needs to be turned on, and then what it'll do is it'll slide back right before your eyes, and you can get a sense of how much nicer you can really see in these locations, particularly the roof. You really see that the automatic color balance really eliminates those features, the clarity of those features. And as I move back, this is the automatic. You see here in the center of the screen, that's what it looks like with the automatic, and this is what Katie and I created in Envy. You can just see how much nicer and truer this looks compared to what you can get with the automated stretch. So hopefully this tutorial was a learning experience for you, and if you have any questions, feel free to email us at sales@apollomapping or give us a call. Thanks.